After the storm, the body of a 100-meter-tall giant suddenly appeared on the beach of the town. The spectacle attracted a large number of residents. Stephen, the famous biological scientist, also heard the sound. The giant was motionless, but his handsome features exuded an air of noble elegance, and the giant's body was very strong, like a hero from a mythological tale. At first, people were in awe of the giant's appearance. People were afraid of the giant. They didn't dare to go up to the giant, until a woman climbed up the giant's body, and then the residents cheered. Slowly, more and more people began to approach the giant. Women ballet on the giant's nose. Children used the giant's chest as a slide. Everyone was laughing and joking. But Stephen turned away, with a frown on his face. He sat and watched from a distance. But the fun didn't last long. After only 3 days, the giant's attraction had waned by half. The crowd was reduced to a few children. There were even a few workers plotting loudly. They were discussing how to cut up the giant's body and sell it for money. Stephen couldn't bear to see such cruelty, so he decided to come back later in the evening. Sure enough, the giant's left hand had been dismembered. In addition to this, his body had changed significantly. His skin had lost its luster. The whole body was covered with black spots. Stephen carefully climbed up the giant's body. He noticed that the giant's face had become stiff and rotting. His eyes had begun to turn white and cloudy, and there was garbage all around his eyes. People even used the giant's body as a drawing board, and scribbled graffiti all over it. Until the giant's body rotted faster and stank. People couldn't get any more freshness or joy out of it. They abandoned it like a derelict ship. After a few days, the giant's body had become a bloody mess. His body parts were nowhere to be found. All that was left was a flock of seagulls munching on the rotting flesh. A few months later, people seemed to have forgotten the giant ever existed. But his mutilated body parts began to turn up in town. His leg bones were stranded on a pier. His ribs were hung above a butcher's store. His skull was transformed into a bar decoration. Though his massive body was in pieces, Stephen felt that the giant was still alive. He often dreamed of the giant waking up on the beach, and walks down the street with a giant stride, collecting his body parts one by one, and then he returns to the sea like a whale. The giant in the movie is like a god at the end of his life. When human beings are confronted with a creature higher than themselves, they initially worship and revere it. But gradually, people will kill the god. They take its remains as trophies for themselves. It was as if people were asserting their sovereignty over the land.